Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. So today I'd like to introduce a new project for 2021 that I've been wanting to do for a little while. So this project is based off of my two favorite project pans to follow. The first being Pan Those Eyeshadows, which was created by Alexandra Shostin here on YouTube. And then the second being Pan That Palette, which I can't find the creator of, but whoever created it, I really love seeing the progress from from month to month on palettes. I really enjoy being able to see the progress on both of those, seeing the palettes changing month to month, and I think it's really fun to have the randomized selection from Pan Those Eyeshadows where you never really know what shades you're gonna get. So for the past 6 months, I've been doing Pan Those Eyeshadows and really loving it. I love the rolling in of new shades, focusing on the shade for a period of time, and finally hitting pan on it or hitting the usage goal. I've been doing 50 uses because I tend to be good at using the same shade over and over and over until I hit my goals. I don't necessarily need the variety of all my different shadows and things. So I've really been enjoying that these past 6 months, and I wanted to continue that in 2021. But I also wanted to do a Pan That palette because I've been wanting to get through a lot of my palettes and hopefully, setting kind of a lofty goal for myself, but I hopefully get 2 palettes completely emptied and out of my collection this next year. That's gonna be difficult, but I'm gonna try for it. And so I was thinking, well, maybe I'll just do that alongside Pan Those Eyeshadows. And then I thought, well, why don't I just combine the two? So I'd like to introduce my new project that is kind of a hybrid of the two, and I like to call it Pan Those Eyeshadow Palettes. So I have 3 palettes that I'd like to work on this year, and the rules for this are essentially the same as Pan Those Eyeshadows. It's just focused on these 3 palettes alone. So every month I will have a quintet of shades, so 5 shades each month, to work on and focus on. And of course I can use other shades if I'd like to, doesn't really matter. But I am going to be focusing on those 5 shades for the month, trying to either hit pan or empty the shade. I'll be doing monthly updates where I will show you the progress that I have on each shade. And if I hit goal on a shade, then I'll roll a new one in. Now my goals will be a little different because 2 of the palettes I want to empty and 1 of the palettes I want to hit pan in every shade. So it's a more traditional Pan That palette and then 2 emptying Pan Those palettes. With that in mind, I want to make sure that I'm hitting pan or emptying a shade before I move on. So there will be no usage thresholds for this project because I don't really want to stop focusing on a shade until I actually hit my goal with it, seeing as how I do want to pan every shade in the 1 palette and empty the other 2 palettes. So there's a couple more rules that I've created for myself to kind of help me keep this project organized. First, I won't be rolling in more than 1 shade that's similar to one another. So in each palette, there's actually a black shade. So I'm only gonna have 1 black shade in each month. 2 of the palettes have a burgundy shade. I will only roll in 1 burgundy shade at a time, and so on with any color. If I roll 1 shade in 1 palette and then I roll the same number in the other palette, I won't keep those shades in together. The second rule is that I will be randomly generating a shade from each palette at a time. So I'll focus on the first palette and then I'll move on to the second one and then to the third. One of my palettes is on the smaller side, so I'm only selecting 1 shade out of that one, and then the other 2 are larger, so I'll be selecting 2 shades out of those. That way I get to make sure there's even distribution of usage on each palette, and hopefully it'll help me hit my goals faster. But those are all the rules for now, so I'll go ahead and show you the palettes that I'll be working on in 2021. Like I said, I have 2 palettes that I want to empty and 1 that I just want to hit pan in every shade on. So I will show you the smallest palette that I want to empty first. And that is my Lorac Pro Matte palette. I've had this for about 2 years now, I think, and I've got some pretty good pan in there. It's also got 3 shades that don't have pan, but I've noticed that the Lorac formula is pretty powdery and easy to hit pan on. If I use the matte shades somewhere between 20 and 30 times I can typically hit pan. And so I think this won't be too big of a problem for me to finish up. These ones will be the most difficult, but I think that I can get through it. I have used this in my brows before. I don't know that I'll do that this next year, but there are ways that I can use this where it'll be pretty easy to get through. And as you can see, I've already got some pretty big pans in them, so I think a lot of these shades will be pretty easy to empty out. The second palette is my Lorac Pro 2 palette, and I actually just today hit pan in the final shade of this palette that I hadn't had pan in. So I've got pan in every shade. I've got one empty, and I would like to go ahead and empty this entire palette. Clearly some of the pans are a little bit smaller than other ones, but I think that all in all, given 12 months, there's 15 shades in here now that I still have to empty. And like I said, I think a lot of them, I've already emptied the one. I have pan in all of them. The Lorac formula is a little more powdery and loose, so it's a little easier to use up. And I think that, especially with these more neutral tones, they're gonna be pretty easy to get through. So hopefully I'll be able to even use like this one as a blush and find unique ways to use some of these where I can be moving through them more quickly. But I'd like to empty this one out. This one is almost, I think it's almost 4 years old now. So I just feel like it's time for this one to go. And then the palette that I'd like to hit pan on every shade in is my Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. So I got this palette in September of 2019, and while I know I still have a while on it before it expires, I've heard that the Anastasia formula kind of goes off far quicker than most shadows. So I just want to go ahead and get a lot of use out of this while I can, and go ahead and hit pan in all the shades if I can, so that I can get the use out of it that I want, because I really do love it. I think it's a fantastic palette. I really enjoy using it, but I don't want to let it go to waste. So I feel like if I don't give myself the goal of hitting pan in every shade, I'll set it to the side because I think it's so nice, and I won't want to use it because I'm like, oh, it's just too special for me to try to hit pan on. Now I know a ton of people have this palette. Some people really, really love it. Some people are just kind of meh about it, but I really like it. I think every time I use it, I get really nice looks out of it. It always looks very pulled together, and I really like that. So I want to give this some love in 2021. So in all those palettes, that leaves me 38 shades to be working on in 2021. Though technically it's only 37 because the one shade in the Lorac Pro 2 palette is already empty, so 37 shades to be working on. So now that you know which palettes I'll be working on, let's go ahead and figure out what my quintet will be. Since I'm recording on my phone, I will be using my laptop to randomly generate the numbers. I've got all my palettes spread out in this Google sheet. Let's see, yeah. So I'll be going, like I said, I'll be going one palette at a time, and I will generate one number from the Lorac Pro Matte palette, 2 from the Lorac Pro 2, and then 2 from the ABH Soft Glam. So there are 8 shades in the Lorac Pro Matte palette. So I'm just using Google. Normally I would use the Pretty Random app on my phone, but since I'm filming on my phone, we'll generate it on Google. So I have the minimum of 1 and the maximum of 8. And so we will generate, and this will be our shade in the Pro Matte palette. Number 5. Which I believe, yes, is Linen. So this will be a pretty quick shade. This is Linen here. It has quite a bit of pan. It will not take me too long to finish this shade up. I feel like a month will not be necessary. I spent a lot of time working on this one actually earlier in my Pan Those Eyeshadows to hit pan on it. And the brush that I use for my matte like cream shades is a pretty wide, dense brush, but it's very fluffy, and so it tends to grab a lot, like it wears down the product pretty evenly because it's much wider. So I've got, it's really quite thin all the way around. So I think this one will be gone pretty fast. All right, so then we're gonna get 2 shades from my Lorac Pro 2 palette, and those numbers are 9 through 23 on my spreadsheet. So we're gonna roll 2 numbers and figure out which 2 we'll be working on in January. 11 and 17. Okay, so those are actually gonna be pretty easy shades to work on. So the first shade that I rolled was Nectar, that's number 11. And this one, like I was saying before, I think I can use this one partially as a blush. So that should actually help me use it up pretty quickly, as well as it does look really nice in the crease or just to add a little bit of warmth. I do like that shade a decent amount. I worked on that early in the year because I wanted to try to hit pan on it, and it did take me a little bit of time. The mattes definitely take a longer period of time to hit pan on, but I feel like I got a decent amount of use on it. It's not super flat, but the dip is pretty wide around it, so I feel like that one might take me a couple of months to get through, but hopefully we'll be able to get through it pretty quickly. And then the second shade that I rolled was Beige, which I actually like to use mixed with snow. So I'll probably be using them that way. And I think it makes a really nice inner corner highlight for me. So I'll be using probably both of these at the same time. That was kind of always my plan. If I rolled one in, I would use the other one. So there's a chance that I'll actually use both of them up pretty quickly together. Because I do think it makes a really nice inner corner highlight for me. This one being a little too white on its own and this one being a little too pink on its own. They just make a really nice light shimmery shade for the inner corner on me. So yeah, I don't know how quickly I'll get those emptied out, but I don't think it'll be too long. I think at most 2 months. I might be able to finish one of them in 1 month. Okay, then the ABH Soft Glam are numbers 24 through 37 on my spreadsheet. So we're gonna generate 2 other numbers, 25 and 34. All right, so 25 is actually the shade Glistening, which is a pretty easy shade for me to use. It's very nice to just like pat on all over the lid. It looks really pretty. It's just a very nice subtle gold. I really like that shade. It's very, very nice. I don't know how long it'll take me to hit pan. Obviously, I haven't hit pan in any of these shades, so it could take me a little while, but hopefully I'll be able to do it in a month. We'll see. Like I said, I'm pretty good about using the same shades every single day, so we'll see how that goes. See if I'll be able to do that. And then the next shade that I rolled was shade 34, and that is Sienna. This one does not have a ton of usage on it. I accidentally scraped my brush across it, so you might see that there, but that is a pretty nice, more reddish brown. I don't know how that's gonna go. That should go pretty well with all the other shades that I picked. That should be pretty easy to use. I could use it as a bit of a transition or on the outer corner. That would look nice. These two definitely look good together, no problem. I mean, this whole palette is very easy to use all together. So I don't know how long that'll take me to hit pan on. I know that mattes are always a little harder than shimmers, but hopefully we'll be able to hit pan on both of them, but we'll just have to wait and see. All right, so that is my palette for the month of January. It's a pretty easy palette. Up here I've got the linen shade from the Lorac Pro Matte palette, which clearly you can't see. I've got the shades Nectar and Beige from the Lorac Pro 2 palette. And then I've got Glistening and Sienna from ABH Soft Glam. So those are all, they actually will probably all work very well together. Pretty easy shades, but they're all on the more neutral side of palettes, so I don't think it'll be too difficult to work through. Again, I don't know if I'll actually be able to hit pan on these two next month, but I definitely think that I'll be able to empty linen and possibly one of these two, if not both. So we will see how that goes. So that's all I've got for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little intro to my 2021 Pan Those Eyeshadow Palettes project. I know it probably wasn't super organized as this is my first video. I'm hoping to get more structured and get it to a place where I'm much more confident in front of the camera and feeling like I know how to do this. I'm working on getting my system right, but yeah, I've always really loved watching these sorts of videos, and I just thought if I'm going to be doing these projects, I may as well go ahead and share my journey on YouTube as well. Like I said, I will be posting monthly updates, so if you'd like to follow along on this journey, feel free to subscribe, of course, and then if you liked this video, give it a like. And if you have any suggestions for me as I'm continuing and getting started and everything, do give me a comment below letting me know what you think, any ideas that you might have for me to make this easier, or just any suggestions that you have at all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.